Hey everybody, it's episode 2 of Unlikely Places Talk Show. This is incredible. Our first episode was a lot of fun. We had so much fun trying something different. We had the you know, different topics more than just the radio show by itself. And we're gonna do the same format today. Just gonna hit on some more points and more excitement coming through because it's been a crazy week out there. Hope everybody's doing good. But I'm Jay Edmond. We have David Scaff with us and Matthew Graham. If you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Hey, David Scaff, the noise curator, excited for our episode two.
Yeah.
And
Matt.
it's Matthew Graham. I'm glad to be back, and we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, so I'm looking forward to it for sure.
And if everybody doesn't know, Matthew Graham is our editor. He does a great job at what he does, and excited to have him on board to actually have the editor as a host. Extremely different, right? In these modern times of podcasting. So excited to have him. Excited to have you. So we're going to be talking a lot of stuff. Dave, you're going to kick off with the music history. So we'll start with that.
Away we go. So today, in this week in music history, in 1990, the Replacements released their seventh and final studio album, All Shook Down. And on this album, it featured songs like Merry Go Round, When It Began. Paul Westerberg, Chris Mars, Slim Dunlap, and Tommy Stinson all played on the recording. Guest artists on the album included John Cale from the
Mm.
Velvet Underground, Benmont Tench from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and Jeanette Napolitano. I always have trouble with her name, from Concrete Blonde. An interesting tidbit about this final Replacements album: the cover photo was not taken in Minneapolis, where the Replacements were from, but in Newport, Connecticut.
Oh, really? Bringing it home. Bringing it home to the East Coast
There
here.
you
I
go.
like it. I
Yeah.
like it. I like it. Oh, wow. That's cool. I didn't know that. The only, about the Replacements I really know about them is because I was a big Posies fan. It was Big Star as well. They had that song, Alex Chilton. They had
Alex
song about
Chilton,
him.
yes.
So
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
about
Well, that
that.
was on Tim, I think, was the Replacement song that was on it.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, that was, in alternative music, it was a big hit for them.
Huh. I didn't know much about them, but I do like their
Yeah.
stuff, and I'll be checking this song out, of course. This
I
is one of those ones. It's like I got to check this
back
out.
yeah back in the day, I was a huge Replacements fan and got to see them many times, including on their last tour, which I think was in 2015. And I got to see a couple of shows, one in San Francisco at the Masonic, and also at the Palladium in Los Angeles, Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
So
Cool,
also I
cool.
got some other tidbits if you guys are interested. In 1960, Sam Cooke accomplished a rare feat, reaching the number two position on the pop and R&B charts simultaneously with his tune Chain Gang, his biggest hit since You Sent Me.
Wow.
Great tune. Great tune. Love
Yeah.
Sam Cooke.
And also in the folk genre, Bob Dylan in
Oh,
1961 played a show at Garrity's Folk City in New York that earned him a glowing review in the New York Times, giving him his first major media exposure. What is that, 65 years ago?
damn. Okay, well that's
Didn't you,
and he's the king.
Jeremy, did you recently get to see Bob
I
Dylan?
did. So, I was going into this with like the idea that it is Bob Dylan. I'm getting to see Bob Dylan. I'm getting to see the master himself, the excitement, but it to be honest, like if it wasn't him, the show was like really expensive for what I got. It was a lot of
Mm.
rambling. It was a lot of no classics, no nothing. It was a lot of the only new stuff, which it's such a Bob Dylan thing to do. Like, I'm only gonna play the new stuff, and then he never played guitar once. He sat at the piano, and it's not like he was playing chopsticks the whole time. Like, it was something. I'm
Interesting.
just
Yeah.
glad I got to see Bob Dylan. The backing band is what made me survive being there. They
It's
were
artists
really
like
good.
that, like Bob Dylan. You're just excited to be there with someone
Right.
like that.
Yeah. Matt, have you ever
Yeah.
seen Bob?
Not yet. Not
No.
yet. I just saw a cool interview though that's one of my music friends posted him talking about where his poetry comes from, or where his lyrics come from more recently, and it was really interesting. He just kind of said it came out of nowhere and stuff, but very eccentric. But you can't deny the lyric talent for sure.
Right.
So
Absolutely. Yeah, poet laureate at one point. So I've got a couple more tidbits. I'm going to move on
Sure.
to our next segment. In 1970, the first episode of The Partridge Family was shown on
Ooh.
in the U.S., featuring Shirley Jones, David Cassidy, Susan Day, and Danny Bonaducci.
Classic. I mean, the
A
Partridge
little,
Family is
a
history,
little
man.
bit of pop culture there. As a kid, I remember watching that show every week religiously. I was 5 years old in 1970.
Damn.
Yes, yes, I
Damn.
am. I am actually that old.
Yeah, you're around my dad's age, so it's
Yeah.
like I was not allowed. I was negative whatever many years, Math isn't in me. I wasn't really around then. But I do
I
Well,
remember
wasn't
I
there
remember
yet
the
either.
reruns.
yeah, yeah.
No, I'm
But you
really.
guys do know the Partridge Family, right? The
Oh yeah,
TV
Oh,
singing
of
family.
course.
Yeah.
Well, they
definitely.
were like the first, I think, ever of that genre, right? I mean, that's genre
To do
defining.
something like
Yeah.
that, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that you can still find reruns, in syndication or on, one of those like Samsung TV channels that show like the same show. I think that you might be able to find something
I
like
think
that
it's on
somewhere.
Access TV. I've seen it.
Oh,
That's where
really?
it is? Cool,
Yep,
cool,
Awesome.
cool.
they
Yeah.
play reruns.
So I got
Sure.
one more bit of music history to share in this episode. It's actually a sad one. At the 1980, on this day, the drummer for Led Zeppelin, John Bonham, died after consuming the equivalent of 40 shots of vodka in 4 hours on
Jesus.
the eve of embarking on a U.S. tour. I remember when this happened in 1980, 44 years ago or so, and just how sad that was.
And I mean, that's legendary drummer defining too. It's Led Zeppelin. I mean, that's John
Right.
Bonham. I
Yeah,
can't believe I didn't realize that was that much. I never, I have
Uh,
Led Zeppelin poster right above me. It's
Ridiculous,
like
right?
it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Talking about mental health. No, but
Yeah.
like
yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
that is nuts. I didn't know that was the story. I love Led Zeppelin, especially the radio station I work at now. We have a September promo going. Like we do a lot of Zeppelin stuff and
Yeah.
play deep cuts and it's fun.
And
But
and lots of radio
yeah,
stations still do that. Get the lead
yeah,
out. They have that
yeah,
program
Yep.
on every night.
right.
Yeah.
It's like a very
So
much of a radio. Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin are your radio friendly bands for this age of classic rock or a little bit older, rock stations. But I wish they would play more like deep cuts like Black Dog and like I don't know. They always play the same old like same songs. It's like, come on. Like even though I
yeah.
work there and I'm like a host for it, I'm like, come on,
Sure.
there's better Zeppelin stuff out
Give me
there.
some boogie with stew.
Right, or
Right?
something
Yeah,
like Raw,
exactly.
like
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
tired of the
So
same old oh my and
yeah, and
it's the
that's
same.
that's a wrap on this week
Yeah.
or this episode's edition of what happened in music history this day, which leads us right into our next segment, Jay.
Sure, yeah. So the mental health side, which is something I, become very much caring about as I'm becoming a young man and starting to understand life a little bit better for myself as somebody that deals with bipolar and issues from that stand. What I want to talk about was like therapists because people tend to, my glasses are fogging up over here. People tend to give up after the first therapy session or therapists, and they tend to not realize that there's more to choices because it is frustrating. You hear from other people like, gather my thoughts here. You hear from other people that like therapy is the golden pathway. You have to get therapy. You're feeling down, go get therapy. Well, it's not just one therapist. Just like learning how to ride a bike or learning how to understand life, it's multiple therapists sometimes. I've had a bad luck with most therapists I finally found my therapist probably a year ago, 2 years ago, the one that I really like and have been stuck with her. She should say she stuck with me, but uh, it took a long time to get there and to trust because you're going to a therapist with things that you don't really want to necessarily tell everybody. So you're going there, and if that trust is broken, it's not easy to recover from that and go to the next therapist and go to the next one and go. So it is hard sometimes, but I say to folks, that have asked, if the therapy does work, it really does, but you got to put the time in, just like, and it's for you, it's for your own life. I don't know if any of you guys have,
Yeah,
dealt with
and,
that.
that is part of putting the time in with the therapist and not just spilling your guts and
Right.
receiving the therapy from them is putting the time into find the right therapist and creating a relationship so that when you're talking to them, it's like you're talking to your best friend.
Mm,
That's how it should feel. For the therapist, that's not it at all. But if they can get you to open up, in that same way, in that feeling that you're talking to your best friend, you're going to be the beneficiary of that because they're going
right.
to be able to treat you. Now, there are guides or guidance for finding therapists. I know in my area of California, and I have gone through many years of therapy myself. There are online guides to helping you find a therapist, and it's not going to be the first therapist. Maybe it's not going to be
No.
the second therapist. It might take a while to find the right therapist that you feel that with. So that is also putting in.
I've experienced, I've had therapy and yeah, the way I alluding to what you were saying, Jeremy,
Mhm.
I mean this is my take on it, is it's very much, at least in my condition, like taking like getting the right medicine for you, to deal with your mental health. It takes a while, to find
Yeah, definitely.
the right combination, for medicine. And I think that it definitely the same way with therapists. And I think it depends on where you are in life. At certain points of your life, one therapist might be better than others. And kind of a side note, when you were talking about, I got thinking about the show, because anybody that knows me, you probably know this, probably see me post stuff about The Sopranos
Mm,
and, Tony Soprano. And I'm become a mega fan. Anyway, they were talking about why he would choose a female therapist. Here's this very guy's guy. And
right.
I think they said a lot of it might have been because of his having a hard time connecting with his mother. And so that might have been like a subconscious reason why he was looking for a female therapist to kind of work things out with him, and plus he was able to be vulnerable with a female therapist. So I just think it depends on who you are, where you are in life. There's so many variables. One
And it's
size
like
does
kind of
not
like
fit all.
the doctor thing too. Like people choose,
Exactly.
like I choose female doctors because I personally get along with them better than I would a male doctor, because I have had things happen in my life that involve male on male, like like involves that kind of like trust being broken between a male and another male. And when I got older, it's still subconsciously in there. No matter, I don't feel comfortable going to a doctor if it's a male, just because of these things that happen to me. And I don't think I'm ashamed of it anymore. I realized, oh, that's just built into my psyche. That's there. So I got to go to therapy to work that out, to that, it's all like a pill chain in a sense too. But I definitely agree with you. It's a sense of finding the right meds for you non-medically, just talking to someone. And Dave, what you said too is very important, because it brings up the point that it's not going to be the first one. My first therapist ended up losing his license because he literally hit a kid in the office, and it made like broke news. And I was like, "Oh, good. It's good for me because I don't have to go to this guy anymore. It's not good for that kid. That's terrible."
Yeah.
And I chuckle a little
And
bit
how
because
would
it's
you know,
painful.
right? And
Right.
how would you know?
Only you would
So
only know if it breaks news. And that's
right.
actually really sad, because there should be like rigorous testing on these therapists, because some of them could be just as bad as, Freudian times and be doing experiments and you don't even know.
Well, they
And it's
are
crazy.
licensed and they do
Right.
need to go through thousands of hours
Right.
of training, before they can become. But we are all human and things do happen.
And like, and mention like, Matt, you mentioned like the age thing and like the different periods of your life. Yeah, like you said, people can change as they get older. So they could have been licensed when they were this age, kind of like a driver's license. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
I want to trust the doctors I have. I want to, and it took me a long time to find the female therapist I have now, who I am just love. She is like a friend that I could talk to, and and it became that. And I think as much as she kind of is my friend, like, and that's a good thing. That's the beneficie. That's what we should have. I never had that before. And I'm lucky enough. I'm on the med card. I have a psychiatrist. I'm not afraid to talk about that stuff. And she's also like really nice. But you only see a psychiatrist like 15 minutes. That's also
Yeah.
not a therapist. People get
No.
that kind of like I go to a psych doctor. I don't need a therapist.
No.
No, you need both. You need the
No. It's
medicine
not
in
the
your
same.
system to level you out, to be able to talk, and then use the therapy to talk and get through. And I'm
Exactly.
a very big advocate for that stuff, because I wouldn't be alive today without it. I would have been gone. There's multiple times I've had suicide fits that I would have been gone. But I'm
Yeah.
happy to be here today. I'm
They
happy
are
to work through these
professionals.
things.
They have a
Yeah,
job to do. They can be
definitely.
beneficial, if you're willing
I
to put
just
the
wish it was
time
a
in.
little bit cheaper. That's the one
As
thing.
yeah, it
I
can
know.
be expensive.
Definitely too
You know,
expensive. Ugh.
but also, like I said, these are humans too, right? And they are
Right.
also fallible. I'm gonna just conclude my part of
It's a
this
good
segment
point.
with
Yeah.
I just saw on LinkedIn the therapist that I used for many years is now looking for another role.
Ah,
He did his bit. He was a therapist for many years, but he's now ready to move on.
he's done. He's done hearing your
Heard,
problems.
heard enough sad stories and wants to change his life. So I'm in his corner on that and hoping the
Makes me
best for
think of
him.
Frasier. That's all it makes
Yeah,
me think of is
yeah.
Frasier. No, but it's definitely important. And then I think this next segment, I'm gonna let Matt introduce this one, as he was the one that picked this. This is super important. It ties into all of our segments today so far. Matt, why don't you introduce the topic?
All right. So many of you might have seen online what happened with Jane's Addiction. Perry Farrell and Dave Navarro got a little bit of a scuffle on stage, or shall I say, really, it was Perry Farrell that was going after Dave Navarro on stage. And I was shocked when I saw it, because I read a lot of history, and I'm a lot more into classic rock and the older bands. And, I figured a band like that at this point is definitely more, where they'd be like, any of their, at least what I would assume, they'd be kind of like over, any of the in-house fighting. They'd be like, hey, let's just
Yeah.
play music, do our thing, and wouldn't let things get to them. But this did some research on the band, and it was kind of interesting. I didn't realize how many albums they released. Kind of reflective of where the band's at. I believe right after the second album, they broke up like the first time, which kind of sets a precedent of what the band would be like for the future. But looking up why that happened, what I gathered was a couple reasons. I guess Perry Pirelli has, what is it, tinnitus, like ringing in the ears, or different
Tinnitus.
sounds in the ear.
Tinnitus.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And I gathered that he had that, but also there's been reports that he's been coming out on stage with a wine bottle in hand.
Oh.
And yeah, so
Oh.
there's that. And then I guess his voice has been rough, which could be reflective of that. And with his hearing problems, I guess he was having a hard time hearing himself on stage. That was one of the issues why he flipped out. But my thing with that is I'm thinking like this isn't like the 70s or something, or even maybe the 80s. Like technology these days, you can't go after your bandmates per se. I mean, I would
Right.
think they'd have a sound guy that would be responsible to make sure he could be heard, period. So I don't know if I buy that. Also, I mean, I went deep into this. Also, the song they were playing, I believe, was inspired by Perry's mother, who I learned passed from suicide.
Oh.
When he was 3.
Oh, it's been a
Yes.
while.
So there are other
Yeah.
songs that he has written about this period. But
Oh,
yes,
okay.
go ahead.
So what I'm gathering, I mean, that might have added to it. He might have just been, it might have been a combination. My guess, the combination of the alcohol, having his hearing problems in general, the theme of the song, and then also from what I gathered, they don't always do the song the same way. And so the format of the song might have been off, where Dave wanted to take a solo and Perry didn't know he was going to take a solo, and there was miscommunication on stage. So that might have added to it. There's just so many things feeding into it that I'm like, choose one. I mean, it could have been any of those,
Right.
or a combination.
There's larger issue here than just what happened on stage. Those are a result of many things, like you said, and they have a history, for not really getting along. I mean, Dave Navarro left the band, in the mid-90s, and yeah, they don't have a huge catalog, but to me, it was just so sad to see this and hear about it. I was so excited that they got back together and they were going to do a full tour. Which, after that incident, the tour's off.
Well, I was bummed to hear because they canceled right before the Bridgeport show in Connecticut. Of all places, you cancel Connecticut's killing people. I'm telling you, it's a curse. They canceled right before my favorite venue, who I'm also friends with the owner, Mr. Koplik. He's a great guy, a mentor for me as well. But no, it's like I was hoping to go to the show. I was hoping to find a way to go to the show because I wanted to see them. Because I mean, they're a good band, and the opener act was Love for Rockets. I think was.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So that bummed out a lot of people because people were looking forward to seeing Love for Rockets versus Jane's Addiction. But
I got to see Love Rockets
nice.
a year and some months ago, and I was so excited to see them.
I have to look into them. I've been told that they're really good, so I'm gonna have to check them out.
In that show they weren't great, and every band has their day when they are not at full capacity, not put on a great show, and that happens.
Right.
This last May, sorry to go off on this tidbit, but this last May, I saw another of the Daniel Ash bands. Daniel Ash is the lead singer and guitarist for Love and Rockets. But I was able to see another one of his bands, Tones on Tail.
Nice.
At a music festival, and they were not top billed at that. They're kind of on one of the side stage, but they put on the best performance at that music festival.
What member of Jane's Addiction was in Porno for Pyros, or Pyros for Porno?
Perry Farrell.
Oh, it
Perry
was
Farrell. Yeah,
Perry.
yeah,
Okay, so it's
yeah,
the lead singer.
yeah.
I was gonna say though, okay, because I was wondering if they, that whole thing. But I see. It's funny is Matt. I'm glad you did some research because I was gonna jump into this with the drug addictions and all that, but that's not the case. I mean, it always could tie in. Drug addictions later on in life could affect the brain in many different ways. But I automatically assumed, like probably a few people that just are uneducated on the subject. Oh, it was a drug addiction spur out, and he had a. And that's not the case. I'm glad that you did some research. Like I'm glad to come to a talk show and admit that I was like, oh, I don't know the actual information, which a lot of us, we as this is a definitely a good mental health topic to top it too. Is touring is brutal on anyone, and especially if they're not getting along, you don't know what's happening behind the scenes of what they put on stage, and then these bands are forced. But I always and everybody's like, well, they're there for the money. That's they're human beings. They're not a circus act. Like I don't understand. I've countered that as a musician myself. Is like we're forced into these bubbles of like, oh, because we chose to not do what you do every day for work, we're thrown into this, well, you should always perform and be ready to perform because you're going to make money. And it's like the band probably wanted to just play their songs again, too. I mean, yeah, they probably signed a nice paycheck to be coming in, of course, but I don't think that was the focus. And it was kind of bummy because I know a lot of friends that were looking forward to the Bridgeport show. And it's the bands don't, it's people pay for your tickets, man. They want to go out and it's not even just the money. It's, oh, I got a night out that I could break away from my 9 to 5. I could break away from my job and enjoy this. And now it's canceled. I'm bummed. But
Yeah.
I feel for both sides of the story on this one because it is a rough subject. And that's why I'm looking forward to having some of our guests that are touring acts coming up to this show so I could pick their brain on it. Like, how does it affect you? Because everybody's different. Like maybe Brian Albert from Silver Sun Pickups, who's going to be our next guest coming up, or is different. It might, his brain might be, I love touring or it doesn't bother me. And I'm ready to pick that kind of thing. So
I think everybody has their own feeling
yeah,
about it, but it will be interesting to get some guest reactions
definitely.
and stories about that. Jay, do we have time for a couple
We
more
have,
things?
I believe we do. We got 7 minutes left. I said maybe I'll say out loud when it's the 5 minute marker, but
Cool, man.
we got like 7 minutes left here. So,
So what else do you got for us?
oh, I was gonna say Oasis just announced finally the North American tour. At least I saw it. I don't know. I didn't fact check it. I haven't had time. Getting a brand new iPhone. You want to talk about mental health struggles? Getting these apps in the goddamn folder and logging in. I never really realized it causes anxiety to try to log back into my damn Facebook. What are we as a society? I have many questions. I don't know what to do anymore. I actually met a girl today at the phone store and gave her my number. So I am living on the edge today. I'm living on a. She said she hates technology, and I was like, I hate technology too. And then I gave her my phone number. I said, "Here's technology for you to call me on." So if she calls me, stay posted on that. News coming in
Sounds
the
like it's
future.
not going to happen, Jeremy.
Oh, it's gonna happen, dude. Maybe we could do it together. That'll be fun.
There we go.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I literally am. I'm back to writing. I should update everybody. I am back to writing. I went to my coffee shop yesterday. They all remembered me from playing there 2 days ago or a couple days ago. They were like, "Hey, you're that guy." I'm like, "Yeah." And then I started writing my songs, and I'm just getting better at talking to people now, which is exciting for me because I've never done that. But yeah, Oasis announced, I believe Friday, which we'll post this. It'll probably be, Friday will be gone and over. But by the time we post this, yeah, North American tour. Hopefully, I'll sell both my kidneys for that one. I do need to see
Yeah,
Oasis.
if
Gonna
you're
be
interested in
outrageous.
seeing them, you need to get on getting tickets because
Yeah,
they will
definitely.
sell out.
It would be immediately. I'm literally like, I'm gonna have to sell both my kidneys and my pets too. But Oasis, they're saying Liam's voice needs to get a little bit better for when I'm reading, but I say give him a break. He
Well,
still sounds good. I don't
the
know.
American dates are after all the UK dates, so hopefully
Yeah.
they're warmed up and ready to go by the time they
Yeah,
come through.
and that's not going to be till probably 2026 anyway.
Yeah,
Because if they're doing it in 2025 next year for it's going to be 2026. So we got time. But I just hopefully the UFC won't sponsor this one. The two brothers be fighting each other all the time.
right.
And then the VMAs too. I wanted to mention for some music pop culture history here. Does MTV even exist anymore? Like I know they have the VMAs, but do they
That's kind of all they're known for
is now
anymore
that?
is
Yeah, these
the
glasses are
VMAs.
terrible.
I don't know that
Ugh.
anything goes on there. Yeah, it had some outstanding performances
Yeah.
on the VMAs this year.
I'm becoming a fan of pop music and I hate it. I literally am a Sabrina Carpenter fan and I don't know what
That's
happened. I
good. You
think it
call
clicked
it a
overnight.
guilty pleasure. And
It
Sabrina
is.
Carpenter, she
Yeah.
won 7 VMAs.
Wow.
in this year's go around. And her performance with Please, Please, Please and Taste Espresso, I thought was, very dynamic. And one
I
of
think the alien thought so too, as he was kissed, or
yes.
she, or they, or them.
Lucky them,
Yeah, lucky them.
Right. Yeah. So, and also Chapel Rowan, right? Her
Yes.
meter rise just over the summer, from nobody knew her. And yeah, she has put in her time over 10 years.
She's struggling, and I think this is a great mental health tie-in for her. I think she's doing it right. Everybody's saying get used to fame. Taylor wouldn't have done. Leave her alone. It's the leave Britney alone situation. It's leave Chapel alone.
And
she's doing okay.
Puts up those boundaries, like I'm not
Right.
going to do your interview, or
Yeah.
F you, or whatever. But it's clearly laying down those boundaries, and
It's
she
definitely
did very
different.
well.
It's different because we're used to celebrities bending over backwards, and that's what. It's time for a change. They're human beings. They're not your dog. They're not pet food. They are human beings. Like, treat them like you would treat your family, man. Like, if I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of stars, and I think it's because of my not asking them abrasive questions or not getting into their personal lives unless they want to share that allows me to still talk to these folks. I mean, I screwed up with Nick. I was overboard and I kind of a little stalkerish, and I apologize for that. And it didn't work out because, you got to move on. I did make a mistake there. Thomas, I thought I did. No, we became friends. We've been calling once in a while and we talk music so we're definitely gonna have him on the show again. But I love, if Nick wants to come on again, great, awesome. But I do apologize. I was a little unprofessional, and I know that now, looking back, and that's growth too. We all have our fan out moments in the worst times sometimes, and we're not thinking. But I definitely, for Chapel, I've been because I'm on Star 99 now. I'm reading like Us Weekly just to get talking points. I never thought I'd do that. I'm living a new life. It's terrible.
I thought her performance in the VMAs with Good Luck Babe, with the whole Joan of Arc, motif,
that's awesome.
Starting out with the shooting the flaming arrow is incredible.
You know what? They put a lot of work into that. It's more than just the music. Then and also, and Dave, you're a sound guy, stage product, manager and all that too. It's got to be exciting to see that stuff, I'm sure.
For sure.
Because like now you got ideas, like, oh, maybe we could do that for the show or something like that. But yeah. Do you guys want to add anything else before we finish?
Going back to what you're saying, Jeremy, about
sure
getting into pop music now, I've noticed something that is kind of cool, and I've been hearing stuff about this. There's been, like, statistically, and this might explain why you're getting into pop music a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually more guitar back in pop music than there's been in a while, a long
You're
time.
You're right. I'm noticing this. Yeah,
there's more guitar, and I mean, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like, oh, geez, and we're at the point where we're just happy there's guitar. But hey, it works.
True,
I mean, I'm glad to hear at least there's guitar in there, and that piques my ears more. So,
and plus, I'm glad that the session musicians, not pre-recorded like beats.
Exactly.
That's maybe what's making me excited too, because it's kind of like Beatle times. Because before the Beatles, they had session musicians. Not the bands, and even the Beatles had session musicians too. And I'm starting to realize, like, I'm starting to really like her. And I think I like her because it's kind of like the Tiffany effect, the Mallrat style era. I like her because it's her. It's still her voice. You're not manipulating it. It sounds like that's her. I mean, she sounds the same live. And they also, like you said, I do agree. I think it's more of a band now happening behind it. And of course, my brain wants that. It wants that full sound, production, guitar, and all that. No, definitely noticing that too. But no, I definitely I see that now, and I'm noticing it because, like, my job now, I have to listen to it. It's in the studio. I have to keep listening to these songs. I kind of like them now. I'm liking Miles Smith. He's pretty cool. I've always loved Post Malone. I've had a sweet spot for him my whole life. I just never, kind of a guilty pleasure. But you know what? I'm ready to on this journey. It'll make this podcast real fun. Watch me leave my rock heritage and become one of them.
Or maybe they're coming back to you. Maybe they're getting back to the rock stuff. Like, I've noticed.
That's a good point.
The latest song by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars was pretty cool. Kind of vintage, kind of 70s vibe.
Hey guys, before you click off, I just want to thank you. It's Jay. I want to thank Matthew Graham and David Scaff for joining me today. Thanks, guys. And click on our next episode or a previous episode once it comes out here. Thank you so much.